This is Gautam, and welcome to the first episode of Parallel Lives. For the first episode, we'll be looking at two great Mughal emperors. Both of them are biographies. We'll be starting with Jahangir, written by Parvati Sharma, and we'll be looking at one more book, Aurangzeb, written by R.D. Trush. In the year 1700, the Mughal Empire is one of the most powerful empires in the world. If you look at the Mughal Empire, it ruled over most of the Indian subcontinent during medieval Indian history. They ruled India for more than 300 years. And if you look at the entire Mughal dynasty, usually it is classified as the Great Mughals and the Lesser Mughals. The Great Mughals usually includes six emperors: Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Aurangzeb. Going through both these books, it is interesting to compare and contrast, the different lives which both these personalities had. You have variations caused not just by their own personalities, but also by where they were placed in history, by the rulers who preceded them, and also the political situation in that particular time in which they ruled. Now, from the first biography, author Parvati Sharma writes this. If you look at Jahangir descends the greatest Mughal emperor, Akbar. Akbar ruled over India for close to 50 years, and in these 50 years, through constructive diplomacy and by aggressive conquest, he kind of created a peaceful situation for Jahangir to rule in. If you look at the succession of Jahangir after Akbar, it doesn't really have so much of bloodshed. It was more to do with personal conflicts as portrayed by the author in this book. Aurangzeb succeeds Shah Jahan. He's the sixth Mughal emperor. He's the grandson of Jahangir. If one looks at the personal history of Aurangzeb, portrayed by R.D. Trush, the situation is totally different. Emperor, he rises to power 32 years after Jahangir was in power. And unlike Jahangir, Aurangzeb had to compete really hard with his brothers. He had to make sure that he outwits each and every one of them, including the then Emperor Shah Jahan himself. Aurangzeb became the Emperor of India even before the previous Emperor Shah Jahan had passed away. And this is one ethical dilemma which the author deals in detail in this book, that what continues to plague Aurangzeb's mind over the course of his lifetime. If one looks at the two Mughal emperors, they could not have been more different militarily. Parvati Sharma takes a mild jibe at Jahangir stating this. Jahangir means the ruler of the world. He might be ruler of the world, but he could be one of the great Mughal emperors who fought the least number of battles. If one looks at his rule in the first half of the 17th century, Jahangir really did not have to fight so many battles for keeping himself in power. Now, on the other hand, if one looks at Aurangzeb had to fight, was fighting for more than 20 years even before he ascends the throne in Delhi. He was fighting in Deccan in southern India, which used to be one of the biggest obsessions of Mughal Empire, their expansion into South India. Now, compared to Jahangir, by the time of Aurangzeb's rule, you see that many European trading companies have already established their roots in India and they're slowly becoming important players. Apart from them, Aurangzeb had to fight a very strong Shivaji, the Marathas, in southern India. So all of this made sure that Aurangzeb was constantly in battle compared to Jahangir. One begins to understand that these differences in military kind of influences their indulgence in other factors like art, religion, and of course in aesthetics. If you look at the book by Parvati Sharma, she dedicates a separate chapter, titled Aesthet, in which she describes Jahangir's obsession with beauty. He investigates geography, he investigates plants, he investigates animals, and he's also experimenting with religion. Jahangir being born to a Hindu mother, and also Thomas Roe was one of the visitors in his court back then. So not just Hinduism, but Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam, all these three religions he's really trying to understand and experiment with as much as possible. And apart from this, paintings reached their zenith during the rule of Jahangir in the Mughal period. Based on the accounts available, author R.D. Trush writes, when it comes to Aurangzeb, the description that he's a pious Muslim is very much true. Aurangzeb tried to stay away from all these, artistic fascinations as far as possible. He was not really interested in, so much of lavish spending. And Author Audrey Trush goes to very good extent to explain that this nature of Aurangzeb could have been misinterpreted by many scholars in modern India just to give a certain amount of religious tint to the character of Aurangzeb. And one cannot highlight or forget to highlight the difference in terms of drinking between these two emperors. If Jahangir was very much closely associated with drinking for most part of his life, Aurangzeb tried to stay away from wine as much as possible, and you don't have accounts which really describe that he consumed wine largely. When I finished both the books, one cannot ignore a certain feeling. Irrespective of the fact that both the emperors led two different lives, during the twilight of their lives, they are, kind of clouded by the same doubts which pretty much cloud every human being at the end. Both the authors tries to bring about what might be their regrets, what might have been going on at their particular minds. Because even though each emperor tries to achieve as much as possible, there are certainly some aspects which you always feel you could have done better, either as a father, either as a ruler, either as a commander, or as a human being. Now, coming to the conclusion, there was one important aspect which was underlined by both authors. They state that the amount of sources which is available for deciphering the lives of the emperors is actually not robust as we expect it to be, and that we need to go for a certain objective way of studying these sources. For example, there is a bibliographical essay in the Aurangzeb book in which the author states that we should rely more on Persian texts rather than relying on English translations for understanding the history during the time of Aurangzeb. And to conclude the review, I'd take one point which is taken up by both the authors in the text. Thing is, when we look at Mughals right now in contemporary India, they are always looked at the prism of politics. Somehow, the rulers who were there 300 years earlier, 350 years earlier, are kind of made scapegoats for politics. The authors state that if we really want to understand Mughals, we need to be more open-minded, and we definitely need to do more research, on how things actually were. And both these books are wonderful places to start with. So that's the end of the first episode. If you like the video, do like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.